started actually with a sole proprietor lawyer in the hope that I would get a bit of experience in litigation and non-litigation chamber work. Then I moved to a startup. This is the time when, the whole digital world was up and coming. And I was very hopeful that I would make my retirement when the funding happened for the startup. But sadly, that was a dream that did not materialize. I then also actually joined a group of youngsters who were running a tutorial business called Law School Tutorials, and was offering tutorials for people who were aspiring to join a national law school at the time. And I have to say, it was a crash course in business management, everything from where would the money come from, to how would we advertise ourselves, to what kind of product we put out, and the quality, customer service. I mean, it was an end-to-end crash course. It was very interesting. I think about 4 or 5 years later, we did eventually sell it to another bigger organization that was in the learning space. So it was really quite a learning, I think, for me on how to bring an entrepreneurial mindset to business and to the work that you do, which I thought was immensely valuable, particularly later in my career when I became an in-house lawyer. After this, I joined a law firm called J. Sagar Associates in Bangalore, and this is at the time one of the few law firms that had a national presence. And I always say that everything I learned about being a lawyer, I've learned in J. Sagar Associates. I had some great mentors myself, people who took the time and effort to teach me, to help me learn, challenged and provoked me, and at the same time were actually there to have my back, I suppose. Then I had the opportunity to join British Telecom in Singapore. British Telecom at the time had just won their first outsourcing contract with Unilever. This is at the time when outsourcing was fairly new. And what that meant was Unilever's telecom contracts, telecom assets, and people who were involved in delivering telecom services would be taken over by BT. BT had reached out to our law firm to ask for support in the Indian subcontinent. That was India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. And I got seconded to the project, and in a cheeky move, I also then joined BT. The firm was kind enough to let me go, I have to say, so I'm grateful to them. BT was another huge challenge and a big learning for me. I didn't know anything about technology really, and nothing at all about Southeast Asia, which is the region that I joined to support along with my manager at the time. I loved it, absolutely loved it, and for the first time understood what it means to sell a product or a solution, and that as a lawyer in an in-house organization, you need to understand the business and you need to understand the product that you're selling. And then Diageo happened. I joined Diageo first in London, actually as a procurement lawyer, supporting the European procurement business. And again, it was very interesting because it was a different industry. I didn't know anything about alcohol. I used to imbibe occasionally, of course, but I didn't know anything about the making side of alcohol. And then I moved back to India to head up the legal function for Diageo India, based in Bombay. We were quite small in India at the time, and we were very focused on the premium segment, and we used to sell pretty much the high-end products of Diageo. And then I was, I think, also in the right place at the right time, because the acquisition by Diageo happened of a stake in USL. And I put my hand up to be working on the team that was doing the integration for the two businesses. And then finally, I got the opportunity, and I'm very lucky that it happened for me. I got the opportunity to join USL as its general counsel in 2015. So what that means basically is that I head up the legal function for USL, which is Diageo in India now. And under me, I have a few verticals. I have a group of lawyers who report into me, obviously. I have a group of anti-counterfeit professionals, because we have some counterfeiting issues in this industry as well. I have a group of corporate security professionals also who report to me, and their work is really about making sure that people security, physical security, and business continuity planning is in place for the business. And last, I have a group of support staff, I suppose, reporting into me, who are really the foundation and the glue that hold our entire team together. So it's really, it's been a roller coaster of a journey in USL. I remember the first day that I started my life career ever, my first day at a job. I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to get a paycheck. I will be financially independent, and I just felt so thankful for that. And I've got to say that till today, that feeling has never faded. Getting your paycheck and feeling that you have the financial independence to make your life choices and the empowerment that comes with it has never faded for me. That has been my biggest aha moment of working, I suppose. I think there are three streams generally that people enter into once they finish their legal studies. And I'm setting aside academia and other things, but typically the three things that people may choose to do is to be a litigation lawyer, as you said. The second is to be an in-house lawyer like I am, and the third one is to work in a law firm. Now, what are the differences? I suppose when you're a litigating lawyer, you are a person who is very much the first point of contact for a person who has a legal dispute. So if Farzeen has a legal dispute, Farzeen reaches out to Mamta. Mamta advises her on what her legal rights are. Farzeen says she would like to go to court. Mamta advises her again on what the right way to do that is. Would it be the right thing to do? Yes, we should approach, what are the pros and cons, helps Farzeen weigh it out. And then Mamta's work is really to support Farzeen through the entire litigation process. Now, what that I think necessarily means is a very in-depth understanding of the subject, which is the problematic matter for Farzeen. Necessarily then Mamta has to study what the issue is in depth. Mamta has to look at how different courts have dealt with this issue before, and Mamta has to then advise Farzeen to say, here are the things we should say in our arguments, here are the people we need to bring our witnesses in, and finally when Mamta argues in front of the court, Mamta has to make a compelling case for the bench for why Farzeen's side is right. So it's a very hands-on experience, and I think it's very satisfying because at the end, if you deliver a win for a client, you can really feel like you have impacted their life and made a difference for them, right? Contrast this a little bit with the in-house world. The in-house world is a little different in that you still have the same connect with your client, because your client is the business you work in, right? So Mamta works in Diageo. Diageo is Mamta's client in that sense. And Mamta's work is to make sure that Mamta partners with Diageo to ensure that Diageo is able to deliver its business objectives and its strategies. So in that sense, the connect is as close, but it's very different because what's expected of Mamta is first and foremost, do you understand what Diageo does? What is Diageo's strategy? What is Diageo's business? How does the beverage alcohol industry work in India? What are some of the regulations that apply? And to really understand the nitty-gritty of all of it. Because then when a problem is brought to you, typically then you can take a call to say, you may not be able to do what you want to do in this particular way, Farzeen, but you can do it in a slightly different way. And having a real in-depth understanding of the industry and the business helps you to get there. So I think the real point of difference in an in-house role is that you are so closely connected to the business, you necessarily have to be very practical about how you approach legal work. And you also, I think, have the advantage of seeing how your legal advice plays out in the here and now. Advice I have given 3 weeks ago will play out in the market and I will see its repercussions. So it's great on the spot learning from that sense. The third stream is the law firm world, and the law firm world again is a little different. It's again a very close one-to-one connect with clients. So say a Diageo approaches a law firm, Farzeen, to help with a particular legal issue. Farzeen is very focused on quality and very focused on timing and very focused on cost, because those are the things that matter to Diageo. We want great quality, we want support on time, and we want to make sure that it's not unreasonably exorbitantly expensive, right? So those are the things that drive Farzeen. And Farzeen therefore becomes an expert in the kind of work she does. So typically it is rare to find people in law firms whose expertise varies widely. I mean, they typically do corporate commercial work, or they do real estate work, or they sometimes litigate, or they do employment work. It is rare to find someone who does something across the board, and that's because specialization has value in a law firm scenario. So those are a little bit the differences between the three streams. Hopefully I've been able to explain it a little. I think particularly for the alcohol industry, I think it has really been a time of significant upheaval, and it's really topsy-turvy. I mean, not to take away from the fact that other categories and industries have also been affected, but I think the biggest impact for our business is because of the fact that really a large part of the consumption and the celebration where we like our alcohol products to be showcased and to be consumed happen outside of the house setting. They usually happen in a celebration group where you hang out with a group of friends, or you're going out in the evening, or you're going out after work, but it's usually outside of your home. The entire restaurant and hotel and bar industry has stayed closed for over 6 months, and it's only recently that in the latest unlock they have started to open up. And I think the real question now is going to be really how do we support them through this opening period and really garner consumer confidence for people to come back. So I think the biggest impact has been the fact that the entire consumption has been limited to just at-home occasions. So I think what the industry and companies like Diageo are doing is really thinking about how we can offer experiences to people for at-home consumption opportunities. Because at the end of the day, the consumer is also about experiences, and this we have seen as a trend coming over in the last few years, and this is here to stay. The premiumization, I think, is here to stay. Everyone, and this is across industry actually, across categories, everyone wants to consume better, not necessarily consume more, but consume better for what they think is higher quality and a more premium product. And this you see in, I guess, the beauty space, you see it even in the FMCG space, and equally you see it in the beverage alcohol category. I think the third one is really the fact that we are digital like never before. I mean, even people who considered themselves digitally savvy have dialed up their digital presence and all the transactions that they do digitally and online, right? So the third big change, I think, for our industry in India has been the fact that home delivery has opened out because of the pandemic and the restrictions on movement for people. I think it's a game changer, and I am very hopeful that it is here to stay. But I think that depends very much on government regulation, so we'll have to wait and see. But if we are able to do it in a way where we are responsible, in that only people who are above drinking age are purchasing alcohol, as consumers, if we show our responsibility and maturity in handling this new opened up access route, I suppose the government will also be inclined to letting it continue. So my hope is that it is here to stay. So I think those are some of the trends that we are seeing changing in the industry right now. I've been in the alcohol industry for 10 years now, 11 I think. And about 8 of them have been spent in India. And when I first came, I didn't realize how much of a male bastion it was. But it really was, and I think it was brought home to me significantly not when I was in Diageo, where the culture was very multinational and there were many women then as well, but really when I came to the United Spirits world, because it was a promoter-driven company at the time before the acquisition happened through Diageo, and I think their approach to work was also quite different. It was not necessarily the multinational approach to running the business. And I remember in the first few years, there were many occasions when I would walk into a room for a meeting and actually I would be the only woman in the room. But I have to say that has significantly changed today. I mean, if I just think about Diageo ourselves, we are now at a situation where 26% of our senior leaders are women. We have an executive committee which is about the top 8 leaders that run the business, and 3 out of them are women. I am one of them. We have a business where we have entirely in our employee workforce about 20% women. So I think we have really moved the dial. We have not arrived. We would like to be in a situation where 40% of our leadership is women, and where our women representation has gone higher than the 20% where we are at. But we're also cognizant that perhaps just ticking the box and getting the number is not going to be enough to move the dial on this. So our focus is on 2 other things additionally, and the first one is really about how we can create a culture of inclusion in the business. Because if you are surrounded by people who who make you feel valued and who welcome you and value your contribution irrespective of who you are and your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, that's really the kind of culture that people want to stay in. So getting people in is one thing, but how do you keep them is the second. So that's one of the focus things we are looking at. And the second thing we are looking at really is to say, therefore, let's try and see how we can reduce the attrition level for women so that more women stay back. Are there specific things we need to do to change some of the work situations for them? We've also taken on a task to be industry leading in some of the policies that we've made for women to enable women to work in our business, and also to make sure that we have, I suppose, an equally supportive policy for men so that they feel equally empowered and equipped to let their women partners practice their professions and contribute to their fullest, right? The last piece for us has been about expanding the narrative of diversity for the business to include the LGBTQI community, which I think is sorely underrepresented, and also people with disabilities. And we are taking baby steps. We're still trying to see how we can get people in, how we can create an infrastructure and atmosphere for them, and actually learn from their experiences and hear from them firsthand what's working and what do they think they can help us fix and improve. So that's a little bit of where we are. It has been a sea change, I think, for me. The alcohol industry I joined and the alcohol industry I'm in today, it's really quite different. It's not just Diageo, there are women leaders across the board. It's just brilliant. I guess the two mantras that have driven my career journey have been always look for learning and challenges and opportunities for myself. And second, whenever opportunity knocks on the door, I have opened it. I have never not opened it. And I have never regretted it, actually. So I think it was a combination of these two things that made me into an in-house lawyer. You know, the thing that has helped me very much in my career has been always, in the beginning, being very greedy about getting as many learning opportunities as I could and collecting them with both arms, basically. Every time an opportunity came, I took it on to learn something new, something different. And very much about trying to broaden horizons. So I think if people out there are thinking what kinds of skills would help them go further in their career, I think the two things I would say really is about focusing on learning always. Grabbing as many learning experiences as you can, therefore, and last, just broadening your horizons. Think differently, talk to a whole series of people who are very different, have diverse perspectives, because the more diverse perspectives you hear and the more different types of people you meet, it really opens your mind up to the whole world out there and gives you an ability to be more rounded as a professional.